Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew coming at you, and in this one I'm talking about 6 things Americans do that annoy Swedes. And don't you worry, Swedes, I'll be coming after you in a future video. So these are 6 things that when Americans do it,
then everyone loses their mind.
Let's get into it. Number 1 has to be keeping your shoes on inside.
What are you doing? Come and talk to us.
That was a big cultural difference I noticed before coming to Sweden. And Swedes still don't understand it. They say it's nasty and gross, but I try to think of a couple reasons why we do it in America. Of course, not every home does it, but it's a lot more common. And that has to do with the fact that I think that most American homes have carpet on the floor, and I just don't see that as much in European homes. When I'm here, definitely in Scandinavian homes, it's usually a wood floor. Carpet tends to hide dirt a little bit more, so I think that's one reason why. Also, Americans tend to drive to a lot of places, but of course, like if you're in a major city like Chicago or New York City, you don't walk around New York City and then have your shoes on in someone's home. I don't think that's cool. But a lot of these other places in the United States, it's just a lot more common to be able to do. Where in Sweden, you just never do it. That would be like the hugest party foul ever if you went to someone else's house and just walked around with your shoes on. But in Sweden, you walk everywhere or you take a bus, so you're moving around a lot more. But also, there's this stuff called grus, which is like these small stones and pebbles that they put on the ground instead of using salt like we do in the U.S. Yeah, they use salt sometime on some roads, but overall, they use these little small pebbles. And they're on the ground like 9 out of the 12 months of the year. So if you walk into a house with these little stones, they get stuck in your shoe, and they get on the floor, and you have to take off your shoes. Otherwise, it's just hard to clean up all these little stones. So I think that's one cultural reason why it's very custom to do that in Sweden. They also see it as just being unclean. You know, what are all the things you're stepping on and walking into someone's home. So it's just one of those interesting cultural differences. Now, I've been in Sweden so long that even if I'm at someone's house I'm really close to or anything else, I just always take my shoes off. It was like my first year in Sweden after. It just made a lot more sense. And it doesn't bother me so much to do it. So it's something that I actually prefer doing from now on. Number 2, I don't know how much this annoys Swedes, but buying sliced cheese. You know, in the U.S., it's hard, and I'm sure someone put in the comments they do this all the time because that's what I always get. But it's hard cheese comes by the slice in the States. It's just already cut. And even if you buy like a big chunk of cheese at the store, they'll take it through and cut it for you, whatever you want. And in Sweden, you can still buy sliced cheese, but it's a lot more expensive and not really common. It's more common to use this cheese cutter here, and you buy your piece of cheese and you cut it this way, and it's just the way that they do it. And it kind of drives people nuts. I know it's a cultural difference. I don't know if all of Scandinavia, I don't know if all of Europe does this, but this is a really big Scandinavian thing. You cut your own cheese. It's just something you do. You don't have it cut for you. That's not cool. It's more expensive. You shouldn't do it. So, yeah, this is something that I never saw this before until I came to Sweden. That's what I know for sure. I mean, maybe you can find this in the U.S., but this was just not something that was common. Number 3 has to be drug commercials on television. A lot of Swedes that travel to the U.S., they're sitting there and they're watching TV, and they'll see a commercial on TV talking about these drugs.
Living with genital herpes can be a hassle. Whenever I had an outbreak, it felt like it took days out of my life. But then I talked to my doctor about Valtrex. Just 1 pill a day helped reduce the number of my outbreaks. And now, I've been outbreak-free for nearly a year. It's a brand new day.
It's always somebody doing something very amazing, or life is really good, and then they go over the side. And you get medication if you're sick. And the doctor just writes what they think is best. It's not about advertising or encouraging people to buy a particular drug to go to their doctor to have this conversation. So that might have something little to do with the fact that a lot of the prescription drug companies in the United States make a lot of money, and they're probably the original OG gangsters, if you will. But yeah, just something you don't experience in Sweden. I've never seen a drug commercial on television. I've never seen it anywhere, shape, or form. We're like one of the only countries in the world that does it, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to people. Number 4 has to be the drinking age in the United States. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to a lot of Swedes and Europeans overall that in the U.S. you can buy an assault rifle or a gun at 18, but you can't drink a beer. In parts of the United States, it was 18, and it was different in every state, and then it got a chance to be made to 21. And Sweden does have like a pretty big drinking culture, but people start drinking at 18 here, and the idea is they can go to a bar and drink at 18, but they can't purchase alcohol themselves, like a bottle of alcohol home or a beer. Swedes think that it's much more controllable if younger people that start drinking only can buy the alcohol at a bar so that they can be refused service. They feel that that's a little bit safer. Sweden has a lot harsher drug laws when it comes to alcohol, when you can buy it and purchase it, and the hours that you can get it. So that's a bit different as well. But yeah, it is kind of interesting if you think about it in the U.S. that you can do a lot of things, but you have to be 21 for the alcohol. And in some ways, I think because 21 becomes this drinking age or whatever, like when you become 21, you're kind of encouraged to drink a lot on your 21st party.
That based on our own experience and 24 years of this law on the books, we believe there's evidence to show that 21 is not working, that it has had unintended consequences, and that it is well past time to open public debate about all of the effects of this law on our campuses and elsewhere.
Maybe if you could drink a little bit earlier, like 18, for example, in the U.S., maybe alcohol wouldn't have that same appeal. I notice a lot of countries in Europe are that way, where the alcohol just doesn't have as big of appeal as it does in the United States. Number 5 has to be when Americans say, "How are you?"
How you doing?
This is something I've noticed, and some things that annoyed me when I first came is like, if I'm an American and I say, "How are you?" I'm being polite. I want you to say, "I'm great. How are you?" But in Sweden, they see the way we act sometimes in the United States as being ungenuine. When someone's really nice to you at a restaurant that's a server, they think that motivation is only for the server to get money. That people talk to you and are friendly in the United States only because they want to sell something or get a benefit to it. I don't 100% believe that. I believe that it's really just part of our culture to say, "How are you?" and just be polite. So I think it's more about being polite. But if I say to you, "How are you?" I just want you to say, "Good, how are you?" It's "how are you" in the United States is a way of saying hello. I think that's the big difference, I would say. "How are you" is a way to say hello. But in Sweden, if you say "how are you" to someone and they're not having a good day, they're going to tell you. And sometimes it can be a bit awkward. I mean, I think it's nice that we have that honesty, but I'm just like, I'll say, "How are you?" And then it goes into this big long thing, and then it starts to get negative, and I'm hearing about all the terrible things going on, and I'm just like, ugh. I didn't really want to know all that. So, but now, as I've been able to think about it more, as I said, it has to totally do with just being a greeting. "How are you" in the United States is a way to say hello. Of course, if someone's in trouble or bad, there's a way to talk about that. But when you're talking to a stranger or someone you just met and said, "How are you?" it's just hello in the United States. That's the way I would describe it. Now, this last one is just what I hear a lot, and not every American is this way, but this is definitely me. We tend to do a lot of things to the extreme, which just goes completely against Swedish culture of lagom and jantelagen, which is basically like sharing everything equally and not standing out as much. And is that we tend to do things to the extreme. That's one thing for me. Everything I do 100% and to the biggest and the fullest. I love going to a buffet and eating a ton of food. When I run large distances. So it's definitely a personality trait. But if you just see things like cars in the United States are very, very big. And if you buy, portions of food is much bigger. And everything that you could think of buying, like paper towels, toilet paper, anything at these stores, they come in huge bulk. There's tons of it. And I guess Europeans and Swedes overall feel more like taking an equal amount and not taking more than what you need, where in America it's all about living to the fullest and bigger things. So that is definitely something, a part of our culture. I think it's a positive and a negative. I think it's a positive in a lot of ways because I think we have a lot of innovation in the United States. We have a lot of good customer service, a lot of good products. But obviously it encourages waste, and it's not a sustainable way or system to go in the future, but it's just definitely something, a part of our culture. So those are the 6 things I think that sometimes annoy Swedes or get on Swedes' nerves if they're living in the U.S. or traveling, or they just don't quite understand it. That was my opinion on this. If you think I missed anything or if there was something better I could have added, please go ahead and put that in the comments below, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Hej då! Jag ska prata mer svenska med dig.